Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're sitting down with Miss Lauren here. Now, we came in contact with her because my sister, she works at a martial arts gym up the road and she handles training all the kids. Miss Lauren, what got you going with the homeschooling? What made you want to do it? Anything along those lines?
So I didn't have a vision of homeschooling. We were from New York originally, so homeschooling was just not a thing. And we moved here. My youngest at the time was 6 weeks. And I always just wanted to keep them educated while we were at home. I stopped working when I had my second. And I would literally just go to YouTube and just find like learning activities for like toddlers. Yeah. And I came across this mom who was a homeschool mom. And I just resonated with the way she just kind of broke things down really simply. So she had all these like Montessori type of activities for kids. And she would just create like her own, I don't want to say worksheets, but it was kind of like worksheets, very hands-on activities for kids. So that was like my gold standard. I just followed her. And I'm like, these are really interesting and fun activities. So I did that. And I just felt comfortable. Like I always had something that had them learning and engaged. By the time my son was 4, he was going to go to VPK. And I have, again, they're a year apart. I should have mentioned that. So it was like 2, 3, and 4-year-olds. And I was like, you know what, let me just send him in just for social, like, 15 hours a week here in Florida. I'm like, it's a nice, baby. Okay. It's a nice little kind of activity to do. And at that time, when he was kind of toward the end of VPK, it was when COVID hit. Okay. So at the end of his, I want to say like 2 months before the graduation, everything went virtual. So for VPK, it was like 3 days a week. And it was like a 30-minute virtual call and, just doing colors, something simple. Keeping a 4 or 5-year-old just for like 15 minutes on a virtual screen was just ridiculous. Like it was just not, it was just a joke. Like it was, so even though I didn't think I was going to homeschool, but I was like, this is not worth, like there's no way he can go to kindergarten. And if he can't sit for 15 minutes, 3 days a week, like he's not going to be 5 days a week doing kindergarten on a computer. That's just not going to happen. So, and at that point I had already kind of taught him to read on my own. So I was finding that at least, and I found that with all my kids actually, VPK was really more of a social thing, but I had already gotten them, what they were learning VPK, they had already learned at home. So they didn't learn anything new other than maybe some extra practice in writing, but in my mind, I'm like, I already got them that far. Like I already taught them how to read. I taught them the basics of what they needed. So like, what's the difference? And I felt comfortable only because I was like, I have somebody to fall back on. I'm not starting this from scratch. I was following that mom and her kids were slightly older. So she always had like learning resources for
So you could kind of see kids. Her play out with the kids and then you could come up behind
kind of like she always had like I would look at the curriculums that either she created or what she referenced as really solid curriculum. So things like Explode the Code or Bob books. So I had already built like a library of things that I was interested in using. So when the time came to finally just kind of pull the trigger and say, okay, we're definitely going to homeschool, I didn't feel like I had to start from scratch. I was already kind of learning along the way. So
you got a little built up.
Yeah, like a little preparing myself. Like if I was going to go this route, I had like an entry point. I wasn't scrambling for like, what are we going to do? And I I was just bent on focusing on language arts and math. Like everything else to me was like, it'll come. I just got to make sure he can read and count and like do his math work. And my son, I know he was like the guinea pig, so he had to he started it off for all of them. And because they were so close in age, it was kind of a nice bonus because whatever I was doing with him, the girls just kind of sat in on, and it was nice, but I think it was kind of deceiving initially because they were so close. The beginning stuff was simple, like learning your alphabets and the reading. But now that they're like first, second, and third graders is now where you're seeing like the branch off of like, okay, they can't stick to the same thing because they are at different levels still.
Of course, yes ma'am.
So that's where, I've kind of gotten to the point where it's just like, I'm learning more and more, like it evolves every year. Like every year is going to be different.
That's one of the beautiful things I like about homeschooling though too, is because again, like we were touching before the video, there is no right or wrong. Yeah. And you have that ability to change. And then, you have like the guinea pig. I saw this worked, I saw this didn't. Now I can make an adjustment.
Exactly,
Was there a set thing that decided like, okay, I am going to homeschool the kids? Was there a set moment? Was it more like, I've already done this a little bit, I've been kind of working with them?
I think what solidified it was COVID. Because I knew for certain that we were not going to do virtual. And I didn't want my kids in masks. It didn't make sense. And I was already home. It's not like I wasn't working at the time. My husband was providing, he's working.
Yes, ma'am.
So it would have been different if maybe I was working or had to be somewhere else. Then maybe that would have changed the scenario. But I was already home with 2 other kids. Like, I wasn't going anywhere. So I was like, I'm already home. Oh, I should have thrown that in there. But my husband works nights. We shared one car.
No way.
So for me, that was actually the other nail in the coffin, was to the logistics of having to figure out, he gets home at like 8 o'clock in the morning. So how would I get him to school on time? I'd have to be scrambling to get to a car line. And I was getting anxiety even just thinking about like what that morning rush was going to look like with 3 kids and the car, and if he's late. And it wasn't like, it's not worth it. Like, why? I'm already home and I already got them to the point they were at. So I just like, we just keep, nothing changed in our lifestyle. It was like, we were doing exactly what we were doing before COVID. So we're just going to keep going and then just kind of see where it goes and just take it year by year. Like when we moved and got our first house, I wanted to be in a good zone school, which I know technically means nothing nowadays. It's like, it doesn't really mean anything. But, it's like, I did my due diligence just in case something happened where I needed to put them in school. Like, at least I know the neighborhood, and, I set that up even though I wasn't planning on putting them in school.
But just in case.
Just in case. But yeah, I would say those were the 2 defining factors, was COVID and the logistics of just having one car and trying to get to school and figuring out.
No, especially if your husband's coming home late too at the time you're supposed to be getting out the door. It's pretty much impossible. You said something that I liked. It's the same thing my mom did. You said we're going to take it year by year.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what she did from the very beginning, because Jay behind the camera was homeschooled from the very beginning. I went up to 1st grade and then I was taken out. But she's always emphasized that she just decided, I'm going to take it year by year. At the end of this year, I'll regroup. Do I want to do it again? If I do, we'll go forward. If not, but I think that mindset, instead of trying to solidify, like, this is what I'm doing all the way through, having that year to year, it gives you that freedom, like, okay, can I make it one more year? I think I can. Let's go ahead and do this again,
Yeah, it's hard. I think in the homeschool community, there's also that kind of cult following that once you're in it, it's like, how dare you, like, consider. So it's like, I don't want to let anybody down. Like, I failed, So, but that's just the reality. I mean, life happens sometimes. Of course. And you gotta be flexible. And if you do have to send them there, like you said, you set yourself up nice to where they're in a good school. It doesn't make a difference. Now, Coral informed us, and you talked a little bit before we got the cameras rolling, that you kind of had a different approach to how you're going about things. Would you mind touching on that with us? Yeah. I'll say from the beginning, like, not being an educator, and you kind of have to figure out, like, there's like 2 parts of it. It's figuring out who I am as a teacher, like what I'm comfortable with, because the reality is, even if it's not what my kids need, I'm the one who has to deliver it. So I have to figure out what I'm comfortable delivering and what I can, what doesn't stretch me. So, like, for me, I had to consider, like, what curriculums do I want to teach? Like, I would just do YouTube reviews of like, I would literally just find as many, like a YouTuber who I didn't even know, if they had a review on like multiple curriculums, I would just sit and watch it and kind of try to get a vibe for the different types of curriculum. Like, is it really teacher intensive? Does it require a lot of one-on-one time, which I don't have. I have 3 kids. So like, are there a lot of manipulatives? Like, I don't want that. Is it just too cut and dry? Like, so I had to kind of try to feel out, imagine the curriculum for myself as the parent. But having other moms, like, I can look at the mom and say, okay, that mom kind of reminds me of myself, like, or I'm not like this mom. So that would not work for me. So it was kind of like feeling out other moms, seeing what, if they resonated with me, if I could picture myself in their homeschool environment, and then seeing what they were using. Okay. And seeing why they liked what they liked, of course, and what they felt the results were. And that's how I went through like tons of curriculums online, just reviewing like. And that's how you determine which one you're. That's how I always do, because it's overwhelming. And like for me, like, I mean, I'm not the most avid reader. I'm not. So reading for me, just like to look at the details of a curriculum, it didn't make sense. Like I have to visualize it. No, you want to get that experience. Yeah, that person experience. So like what fail, like the do's and don'ts, pros and cons. So I love those videos. I'm like, tell me what works and what doesn't work, and then I can fill in the blanks. Like, what maybe didn't work for you. I actually like that that concept. So that's how I narrowed it down to like the few that were of interest to me. And we started off Well, I still used that YouTuber, like her main product.
Do you have her name by chance?
Yeah, her name is JD Alvarez.
Okay.
Or like JDA. And she literally created a lot of her own content, but it was very simple. It was no frills. It was just like very basic to the point. And I like that because it was like, okay, I don't have to follow a million instructions. It was just
give me the
almost so simple that I'm like, does this really work? But I'm like, oh my God, my kids are reading. Like, it works. Like, it really does work. And it wasn't like, teach your kids to read 100 lessons. Like, it was like the simple, like flashcards, 1 minute a day, and it worked.
That's perfect.
Like, it was the simplest thing. So that was my starting point. I still reference a lot of what she does, but again, we're different moms. So some of the stuff I try to mimic it. I'm like, okay, this is not working in my house. Like, I'm not that diligent. Like, I can't do that. I can't be her. So I'll take the good, leave the things that don't work. Then we went into the good and the beautiful, which was very colorful. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Okay, good job.
Look at that throw. Yes.
So for me, I needed something that was not very teacher intensive. Open and go. Tell me, I don't need to prep ahead of time. Like, I could literally just wake up in the morning, roll out of bed, open the book, and they'll tell me exactly what to say and what to do. And that's what that was. It was very
that was the good and the beautiful.
The good and the beautiful.
Okay.
It is a beautiful curriculum. It's very beautifully laid out. What I liked was that it had a little bit of everything in their language arts. So it touched on grammar, on phonics, on spelling, on art history, art appreciation. Like, it had everything kind of bundled into one package. For me, it was nice. And you could download it for free. So you could buy it, the book, and pay for the money, and it wasn't very expensive. Or you could just download the entire PDF for the whole year for language arts and math.
No way.
For free, yeah.
That's awesome.
So that was good to start off with. And we're still using it in parts. It's a great curriculum, but then as he started going, did it for kindergarten for all three of my kids, for math and language arts. I want to say in second grade, like second or third grade, I decided, I realized my son, like he's very number savvy and he needed a little more drill work. So that curriculum was very spiral in that it constantly brought up new concepts and then had a review of prior concepts, like constantly, which I liked, but for some kids, it's overwhelming. Like, it's too much on one page. And it was good because it kept everything kind of fresh in the forefront, but because you're trying to touch on everything, it didn't give enough reinforcement drill work.
I got you.
So it wasn't so bad with him because he just got math and it was okay. But I was like, for my girls who need a little more reinforcement, maybe it won't be the best fit. I was always finding that I had to look for other supplements like apps like iExcel or Extra Math, and just little drill work just to kind of keep them, I guess, mastering. So I get around second grade for my son is where we started kind of testing out some other paths, and I ended up changing to math to Singapore math. Okay. Which is completely different style of math. It's a lot more workbook. And I try to get the colorful one so that it wasn't too deviating from the beauty. And my son's okay with it. It was definitely more challenging, but that was a more advanced math. So again, that was one of the things I had to learn, whereas I couldn't just jump into, I thought he could just go into third grade, and we started it and I realized, wait, this is way more, it's going faster than I expected. I needed to go back to the second grade for their curriculum because that second grade kind of picked up better where we were at in Good and the Beautiful. It was just the way it was laid out and the speed at which they introduced topics was just different.
That's awesome though, how you could go and you should figure that out. Like, okay, do I need to slow down?
Yeah, there were tears. Right, I'm like, there were tears. I'm like, this is a lot of information. I'm like, that was my mistake. I did not do the placement exam. I should have done it. I just said, okay, multiplication. We're on multiplication. Did not. That was my lesson learned. So we had to go backwards. And then same thing for my daughter. I didn't do the placement. So she was going into first grade. But their first grade is more like a second grade level. Okay. And she had just finished kindergarten. So I should have started her probably their end of their kindergarten. Okay. I didn't. I went right into first grade. I'm like, it's adding and subtracting. No big deal. Tears. Like, it was torture. It was torture. And after like a few months, I'm like, why am I forcing her into? Of course. Why am I forcing this? Like, it's tears. She hates math. She dreads it the minute we open it up. And for me, it's like, I just want to check the box for the curriculum, and we're gonna get through this. It's gonna help you. And at some point, I just had to call it quits. Like, who's it for? It's not for me. I'm not benefiting out of it. She's not benefiting. So we went back to the Good and Beautiful because that's what she liked. So I'm like, And in my mind, because I'm like a little OCD sometimes, so it's like I feel like I'm going backwards because I'm like, okay, now we got to start from scratch at in your first grade, which means we're behind, even though there's no such thing as being behind.
No, there's not.
But it's that mental like. It is like
every single parent will battle with that as well.
Every parent, because like people say, "Oh, what grade is your kid?" And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, well, technically he's a third grader, but he's doing the second grade math. I'm rationalizing all this stuff in my head, which is terrible. But yeah, so we kind of had to go back, and I struggle. It's very enlightening for a parent. Like I feel like I put a lot more expectations that it's like nobody else is putting this on them. It's me.
Of course.
And it's me because I'm like getting all that feedback from the outside and what I think they should be doing right now. So every year it's growing, I think, more for me as a parent, as a teacher.
And I don't think we touched on this. Would you be able to tell them like what grades they're in right now?
Okay, so technically my son he's a fourth grader. And my daughter's in second grade and my other daughter's a first grader.
In the first grade.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, is there any point right now where they're learning differently, or are they kind of all picking up the information, retaining the information the same?
Like the way they're learning?
The way they're learning it.
I would say my son is pretty consistent, like the way in his learning. I think again, the structure of math specifically is it's challenging. Like, okay. And I see how his brain, where he likes drill. Like I want quick to the point. I just want to give me the question. I want to get the answers. If it's more abstract, like with word problems, and then he's like, his brain kind of just wants to shut down. Like he doesn't want to go the extra. He's very cut and dry, which is funny because if you give him a game or anything, he's on it. He loves it. If it's just abstract thinking and like more like, this one, Sue went to this, and his whole long drawn out problem, he's like, he shuts down.
It's crazy you say that because I'm the same way. You give me a math problem, how we doing, man? With actually a formula that I can go, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
As soon as you start throwing word problems in it, I'm just like, yo, this ain't even math anymore. This isn't even math. Like, where's the math at?
It's like, I don't know if it's a boy thing or it's just like you're very technical and you just don't, I don't know, you want to get to the point. I just want to get in, get out, and
of course. All right, so right now, as you said, you have a second grade, first grade, and fourth.
Yeah.
Do you think that when the younger ones come up that you're going to be sticking, okay, we're going to keep using the guinea pig, or will you get to a point, okay, I'm seeing my daughter learns a little different this way, I'll veer this way with her?
Yeah, that's happening this year. So
that's happening this year?
It's more noticeable in math. So actually, we're actually trying, for my second grader, we went from Good and Beautiful to the Singapore. She hated it. Went back to Good and the Beautiful. She loves the Good and the Beautiful, but again, because there's not that much mastery. For me personally, I think she could get a little bit more mastery. She needs more mastery. So we're actually looking into introducing a totally different math now as a trial run. So we're thinking of Math UC because that's like straight mastery, which up front I gave her the choice. I said, we still have the Singapore. You're older now. You've had a lot more practice. It may not be as difficult, or you might not be as opposed to it. But I gave her a choice because homeschool moms, we collect curriculum. So I have had them all. And so I gave her the choice, and she said she'd rather try the Math UC. So we're almost done with the Good and the Beautiful for her first grade. So we're kind of using them in tandem. And my goal is really just to kind of solidify the loose ends in her basic math addition and subtraction. Okay. So I'm not like 100% committed to the new curriculum. I just want to get her her foundation solid. And then at that point, we'll kind of reevaluate if she, what direction she is going to go in. If she really likes the mastery approach, then we'll stick with it. If she's good with the concepts and wants to go back to the Good and the Beautiful because she likes the arts and the coloring and everything, then we'll just go back. Yeah, there's nothing. That is, again, one of the benefits of being homeschooled is you can actually choose, no, my kid's not retaining this information this way. Let's figure out the way to get the information into them. Now, I know with us, we had 3 kids at the house, and it was always a headache for my mom trying, because she'd have one focused over here. She'd have me and my brother playing over here. Then all of a sudden, my brother playing with my sister, and I'll focus. How do you go about your normal day-to-day? Do you guys have a structured learning? There's no right or wrong answer with this. No, that's a good question. There's definitely more of a flow toward it. We do have a structure. Okay. Our weeks are kind of divided. So we have, on Mondays, we have a co-op that we go to. Nice. Conversation. So and we're out pretty much all day for that. Tuesdays, we're home. That's like our school at home day. Okay. The goal, I have goals. Like it's never the same every day, but our goal is, in theory, that we would be able to start school at like 9 o'clock, around 9 o'clock. So, but the challenge with 3 kids is like we're limited on time. So trying to get it all in is hard. So I'm always trying to come up with some creative ideas. So like right now I'm trying to get one kid up earlier than the others to maybe do a few of their independent subjects with their math.
That's actually a really good idea.
It is good. It works better with one kid. The one kid who will remain nameless. But that kid is, she likes getting up. She doesn't love getting up early, but I think she knows that it's like a special thing. Yeah. So she's more, once she's up, she's up.
She's wanting to do it more.
My son is like, he drags, and I tried it once.
That's that one right there. That's that one right there.
I tried it once, to be fair. I'm like, you know what, we'll cycle it through. And it came up to my son, and we woke him up, and I was like, this was a waste of an hour. Like, no, we're not getting any learning done. Like, because I'm like, you really can't, his brain just wasn't up. I'm like, I'm not going to have you sit and try to do a math lesson and you're like half asleep. That's just not going to work. So he did some things, but it just wasn't enough use of the time. So I'm like, okay, so we're just gonna X that out, and like I'll stick with the kid who wants to get up early. You know, I had to like do a little bribery, like the kid who gets up maybe gets a treat that morning because you got to motivate them. But so yeah, Tuesdays we're home for most of the morning. We try to get done. It's a longer day. It's like it feels like it goes forever because there's a lot of distractions with the 2-year-old and. But yeah, we try to get to school for the most part 9 to break at 12 for lunch, and then we'll go and I don't know, maybe sometimes it goes till like 3 or 4 depending on how much we get done or how motivated they are. And then I also need time for me. So like some Tuesdays I go to a mom's encourage group at our church. So that's like every other week. So if I went there today, so that will kind of cut our learning day short. Yeah. But we go all year round. That's the other, we school year round. We don't like take these huge breaks. So we just take a break when we need it and just keep going.
Again, the freedom that homeschooling gives you to do it. Because you really don't, just because the government or society says you have to be structured between these months for learning, at the end of the day, learning should be 12 months out of the year with a kid. It should be completely, when the kid's taking in the information, when he's not, it should be throughout the whole thing. Hey, tell Coral I said what's up when you get there, all right? So kind of bringing it back to we touched on a little bit in the video we made before we came here, how important it is for the mom, whoever's at the house with the kid, to have that thing where they can go and they can have their time for themselves to reset. That church group, have you found that that's really working for you? Is that something that helps you reset, get your brain working again, clear the thoughts and everything? It's a nice time to just have adult conversations and, and kind of be filled up ourselves and get, a good word and just practical life things. You get to worship. Of course, that's awesome. Yes, ma'am. They offer childcare, so it's like free childcare. Nice. You get coffee, and like it hits all. It meets all the needs right there. So that's definitely been a blessing. And the co-ops are nice because it gives the kids a chance to socialize with other kids. I get to socialize with the mom. Yes, ma'am. We do 2 co-ops, so like a Monday and a Wednesday. Okay. Wednesday's a very much lighter one. It's like a more book club. So our like full days at home for schooling would be like a Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Okay. That's kind of our days. And Fridays is a loose day because that's like our field trip day or these things. So we have a lot more time off, but they're young. I'm like, it's okay. No, there's nothing wrong with that. We'll get to it. We'll get to everything. And I know my sister at the gym absolutely loves all your kids. So whatever you're doing, they're doing good because she doesn't like too many people. So if she likes them, that's a good sign. Yeah, my daughters, they love her. So. Do they? Yeah, they do. They were upset when they found out she had a boyfriend. They were like, tell her they're too young. They're too young for that right now. They're like, With the co-ops, are you finding your kids resonate well with the kids there? Is it something that they enjoy doing as well, or? Yeah, they do. They love the co-ops. Nice. I mean, it's one of them is more for me, but the first year was like kind of a struggle. They now love it. The Wednesday one it's definitely more fun for them, and they love it. That's the one that's not that it's least educational value, but it's definitely more for the fun than anything. So because it was important to them, I'm like, even though I could have totally cut it out of the week, we need to be home more. I didn't want to take that from them because that's the one that they really enjoyed. Of course. Going to. So. About how many people are showing up at these when you go to them? So classical conversation on Monday. It's probably have about
45 kids. They're well, they're broken up into age groups. So it goes from 4-year-olds up to high school. So they're small class, like 8 or 9 kids in each class.
Okay.
And then our Wednesday co-op has about 18 kids.
That's still good. It's still a good turnout.
It's a good size. And it's a pretty close group. And they love it. They get to learn a little bit. It's more fun. We all read a book together at home, and then a mom will take a turn just kind of bringing any sort of lesson that can tie it back into the theme or the book. So it's pretty good so far.
No, it's nice. They get to socialize. And then now a big concern for people who are considering is, how do I make sure the work I'm doing with my kid is being counted, now I know in Florida we have relatively relaxed laws in regards to that. How do you go about making sure the work you're putting in with them is being solidified or certified, or do you not worry about that?
No. So we've always done, before the scholarship was available, we would always have a portfolio review. So that was, I didn't want to do the testing. They were young. I didn't think that was needed. So we just opted to just kind of maintain a sample of all their work, and then have a certified teacher come, and she would look over their work and just kind of talk to them, see what they're doing, seeing that they would read to her whatever she asked them to do, and then she would just sign off. So it was nice for them because they got somebody outside of me looking at their work.
Yeah, it also solidifies everything.
And she would give, every what's it called? Well, every teacher evaluator that would come in, they have their own style. So you find one that you like, you kind of dive with, and then some will just give you input just about what you're doing, but they're very, very relaxed, obviously, because you're the mom and you're not being compared to a public school standard.
Not at all.
So it's really just seeing growth, like where they started, where they're at now, what they're interested in, and it's been nice. They give you, definitely some useful tips. With
that scholarship, I know that's a great opportunity for families right now. Could you mind touching on about how do you go about applying for it? How do you go about proving everything they need you to prove? Or anything that's in regards to, because I know it's a relatively newer thing.
As far as their schooling, like the evaluation aspect
just
of it?
Anything in regards to that scholarship. From the name, like how you guys got involved with it, how you applied for it, and then do they have any specific things that you have to do to make sure you keep the scholarship?
Yes, so that's really good. So to apply for it, it's through the Step Up organization. So you go on to Step Up, and then initially it's like the Florida Tax Credit Scholarship. So it's like there's twofold. So when you initially apply, you're going to apply for that Florida tax credit, which first gives you funding to use toward private schools. Okay. So once you get accepted into that, and it's approved, then they give you the option to use it toward a private school or it's called PEP, which is a personalized education plan. And that's what the homeschoolers are using. So as long as there's still spots available for that scholarship or funds available, you have that option, and then you select how you're using it. And then you determine which way you're going to go. Which way you're going to go. So for the first year, because we've now renewed it, so we're into the second year of the scholarship. I think the hardest or scariest part was once you received the funding for that, or you were approved for that scholarship, you had to unenroll as a homeschooler, and that was a big thing for people.
No
it was like,
way.
Oh, okay, government, and why it didn't make sense to us. And I still kind of think it's weird, but I think what it is that they need to categorize it as a completely separate group, and I'm sure they're looking at numbers, and of course, I'm sure that in the future it might show up with some.
So right now, what would your kids be considered? A homeschool, part-time?
They're homeschoolers, but they are PEP students. Okay. So they're specifically like these scholarship students. So what the challenge with that was that even though we are actual homeschoolers, because it's only a scholarship for homeschoolers, you had to unenroll with the county as a homeschooler. So nothing changed other than you were getting the money. What did affect, I don't have older kids, but I know kids who were like in middle school or high school were having issues with the ability to take free like electives or the extracurricular. Like if you can go to your own school right now and join a varsity team or whatever that is. But because that was set up for homeschoolers, you're a homeschooler, but now you're no longer classified as a regular homeschooler. No, so it was just the logistics of the wording where everything rolled out so fast that the county and the schools, they don't care about these scholarships. They're not like actively looking at how to make our life easier. So no, not at all. So it just kind of put a pause and interruption. It's like nobody knew how to handle these schoolers. Like, do they pay now because they're not homeschoolers, even though they are? Nobody kind of knew what to do with other homeschoolers. Like, what do we lose our privileges? We're still homeschooled. Like at Florida Flex, like that's no longer free. So if you're a homeschooler using Florida Flex, like for me, you kind of have to see how much it's going to cost now. Like, is it worth the scholarship? Is it going to eat up half your scholarship now because of that? A lot of the homeschool classes or programs that are available now, because they know their funds available, now they've increased their prices because they know you're not paying for it. It's coming from the government.
So now they're trying to get more.
They're going to get more. Or if they become a direct provider, which means you don't have to pay up front and get reimbursed, they'll actually take the money directly from the scholarship. That can take like 6 months. So because they have to wait for that, not 6 months, sorry, 60 days, like 22 to 3 months.
Okay.
So because they have to wait now, they're upping their price because, well, I'm taking the loss. You know, I have to wait for this money now.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like a ripple effect. So it's a blessing. It's still a blessing for sure. But those were some of like the logistical issues that kind of happened with the scholarship. Was, you know, we definitely saw an increase in pricing for, like, again, if you were taking, I have friends who aren't for virtual and now went for being free to, if you're taking every class, you're looking at about $5,000 or $6,000 for like of your scholarship. That's like, you're like, what am I left over with? Like, do everything else. But you know, it's definitely a blessing. But again, because you're now not a homeschooler, they do require you to take standardized tests.
Oh, they do.
So that is a requirement with the scholarship. You can't, if you don't do the test, you will not be able to renew for the following year. Like, you have to take it. There's no pass or fail. And the nice thing is they do give you a list of standardized testing that meet the qualifications. So you don't have to go into a school, which was that was the only reason why I even signed up for the scholarship, because I had a lot of friends who were like, I'm anti-government involved in my homeschooling. But when we found out that it wasn't that strict, and like there was flexibility, you could do it at home, the testing, I'm like, okay, it definitely calmed my nerves a little more about that. So we tested this last year, and we just found actually a test they use in public school, STAR Literacy. Okay. But the company offered the test at home, so I was able to proctor it.
Nice.
So it was super simple. I mean, I wasn't fazed by it. It was their first time ever taking any kind of like adaptive test. And it was interesting. Like, they didn't know what to make of it. It was it was like we woke up one morning, they had no clue. They're like, we're just gonna try this. Like, we're just gonna get on the computer. Don't worry, don't sweat it. You know, just answer these questions to the best of your ability. No pressure. I don't care what the score is. You know, and that's how we approached it. And I mean, they did fine.
Did they really?
Yeah, they did fine. And one thing that I did find interesting was with my son. So we ended up doing it twice with him. The day I gave it to him, I should have checked. He wasn't feeling great. But I'm like, you know, we sat on the sofa, like, you know, made it really chill. I'm like, it's going to take 15 minutes. It was like super fast. But he was going through it was like 30 questions, and it should have taken about, you know, anywhere from about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. He finished it in like 9 minutes. And I was next to him, and I'm like, I barely had a chance to read these questions. And you're not a faster reader than me. So are you reading these questions? And he it bombed. So like, obviously he bombed. Yeah. He wasn't reading the questions. He was just clicking away. And so of course I got there. I already knew that going in, but as a homeschooler, it was really refreshing, because I'm like, if I was there with him. If this had happened in school, so now my report says he needs early intervention. He's at a first grade reading level. And I'm like, all these things. I'm like, if I wasn't there to know why that happened, then I could be freaking out and you know, just going and looking for tutors and going frantic.
Thinking
and like,
what I'm doing is not right.
Job. Yeah, yelling at the school. And I'm like, it just didn't make sense. So I was able to have him do it again. And I explained to him, I'm like, look at what this result. We're going to wait a few days, wait till you're like feeling better, and we'll retake the test. And then he scored like above grade level. He was fine. But it was like, and it was one of those things, he's like, it's an adaptive test, which again, he doesn't know. I'm like, it's going to get harder. You're not meant to know everything.
No, it's trying to see exactly where you
kind of cap out. And he's like, I'm like, if you don't know the answer, just guess it. He's like, you always told me don't guess in math. And I'm like, it's not one of those times. It's just guess. So you're not supposed to know this. You're not supposed to know it. So he did fine, but again, even just reading the test results, it's like, as a mom, like, if I wasn't involved with my kids' schooling, how would I interpret? It's very misleading, some of these test scores. Like, you look at it, like, it's saying like, okay, he's at a almost like a fifth grade math level, but that's not really what it means. Like, you have to like really interpret and like dig and Google, what do these test results mean? I don't know what I'm looking at. So as a parent, like, if I wasn't homeschooling, like, it doesn't mean anything to me now, because I know what my kid's doing, I know where he's at. But if I wasn't involved in his schooling like that, what would that do to me, to him? Like, how would that impact?
Well, even like you said, if they were a public school kid, and let's just say a kid goes in and he's sick and he takes a bad test, his whole next year, there's not that mom that cares as much as you care. Why did this happen? You know what I mean? Their moms care, but the school system is there, and they're not going to say, you know what, you're not feeling good, let's do it a couple of days later. They're just going to say, hey, you're out of first grade, you're going into these classes next year. So again, I think that's wonderful that they allow you to do it at home. Is there any additional, like, can you use that scholarship towards anything outside of studies, like a sense of?
A lot. It's really open. I mean,
is it?
You can get a paddleboard.
Nice.
Like any kind of, you can do furnishings for your classrooms, field trips, museums. I mean, people, I know it's kind of on the fence of people, but Disney passes, annual passes for your kids.
Well, you can take them and go there.
We did. We had bought the ticket. I had no desire to go to Disney, but I'm like, they're going to pay for $300 for my kid. Then this will be the year we go. Of course, we go to Disney and make the most out of it. I mean, there are educational benefits to it, but they have bicycles, trampolines. I mean, they're taking piano lessons now because we have the funds to do that. Or
that's awesome.
Vocal lessons or jujitsu. I mean, it's pretty amazing the amount of things that they have access to now.
Okay.
Because of the scholarship, you still have to be mindful. I mean, you still have to be mindful. I think you still have to have money up to put up front. Unless you're finding a direct provider that's going to take the money, straight out of your account. You have to put that money up front, and it can take. They say it can take up to 60 days to get it back. So don't get into debt. For this reimbursement process. But for families that have multiple kids and just even the TV, they'll pay for a 55-inch TV.
Really?
But they won't do a computer yet. The computers are not on there. It's weird.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird.
Strange.
But anything that can provide some sort of academic value.
Okay.
Legos, they have a scholarship shop too, so you can actually buy directly from their scholarship shop.
So right then there it's going to be reimbursed if you get it from this shop?
Yeah, because you're buying, that's taken straight from your funds. So and you have actual companies like Best Buy's on there. And they'll tell you, they just have a bunch of listing of things that they have. But for me, that was a blessing. Come Christmas time, I was able to get educational toys for Christmas. This is our Christmas shopping. We're going to get Magnetiles and Legos. And if you have imaginative play toys, you can do that. Play-Doh. Simple things, but binders, anything that you can think of that you can prove is a beneficial educational benefit to your kid, for the most part, it will get.
That's awesome. I think that's going to open a lot of doors. And it makes your life a little bit easier as well, because I know from watching my mom, you're wearing every single hat possible right now. You're having to take care of the kids, be the teacher, be the principal, be the clean up after them, be the mom at the same time. Yep. So having that thing where you're like, I know I can go do this, and it's going to be, not in the sense free, because you have to put the money down, but knowing that I'm at least be reimbursed and it's helping my kid, that I feel like that opens up a lot of possibilities. So with us, we always say there's 4 things: your finances, your health, the social ability, and the studies. You said the ground control. Is there anything in the co-ops as well? Yeah. Is there anything you do with your kids? Now, I know they're super young, but to make sure they're getting out there and they're able to socialize. Because when I tell people, I was homeschooled, most people are completely blown away. They're like, you were homeschooled? Yeah, what the heck? But it was, I think, because my mom actively just made sure that we knew how to represent ourselves. We knew how to communicate with people. Is there anything you do? Again, there's no right or wrong answer with this, to put them out there to make sure they're getting that social aspect down?
When we first started, we had another mom that I knew that was homeschooling, and she had an only child, so she really needed him to socialize. So both our sons went to VPK together, and she was just like, we need to find a way to connect with other moms. So we ended up actually starting a homeschool playdate group on Facebook. So, and it really blew up for a while. In the beginning, I want to say it was a few years ago. It kind of dwindled out now a little bit, but when we first started, at some points we'd have 30, 40 moms.
No way.
Coming to it started with a park play date, and it was religiously on a Wednesday. Every Wednesday we knew from 10 to 12 or whatever, we had our play date time, and new moms were coming out. And then it went from just a play date to, we tried to have educational field trips. So I would sometimes organize one about learning about bees. We had 80 kids. It was crazy. 80 families that showed up to that one, and it was a paid event. And we got a beekeeper who came and brought honey and stuff, and it was really cool.
That's awesome, yeah. So
we did a lot of that, and that was for about a year. The kids got a little bit older, and just life took its course, and that one of the kids had to go back to school for other reasons, health reasons. And we developed a lot of friendships from that. So we definitely would always try to get to at least one play date a week. We have the co-op. church friends. We have a lot of church friends.
Churches are always a great place too, as well.
Yeah, just church. And then we always have, family around. So we have family from New York that comes to visit all the time. So we were pretty social. I made sure that they get out to hang out with friends at least once a week. I can't do it all the time, but
yeah, they'd never met us, and they were not shy at all. They were completely cool. You know what I mean, talking with us. So like whatever you guys are doing, obviously it's working. Anything that you could suggest to the parents? I know we're going to kind of go back to the studies here, but anything you could suggest to the parents in regards to like, okay, this is how I'm seeing my kids retaining my information, or this is going to be a little bit different with this one. Is there anything? If there's not, again, it's totally cool. Anything that you could suggest from what you've seen did work or what you've seen didn't work when it comes to this?
I think for me, if I make the lessons, I don't want to say more fun. It's like hard to, you can't always be fun. But when it is more fun, whether we do a lot of read aloud. So like story times with it, or I think just being very in tune with what your kid is feeling. So like my second grader she's my literature one. She's a great reader. So she reads, she just blows me away. So math is not her strength, but literature, like reading is. Yep. So I can do things where I can like let her go read independently by herself. Like I think just seeing how your kids are like receiving the lessons. They may not remember everything. Because realistically, I don't think they're gonna remember. They're not gonna remember everything. I don't remember anything. Half the stuff I learned as a kid.
Anyone that's helping their kid with homework that kids go to regular school, every one of those parents don't remember what they're trying to help their kid with.
I'm relearning everything as I'm teaching them right now. So for me, I think it's just being simple. Okay. Like I feel like when I get things, there's just too many frills, and it's just too much. Like if I make it simple and I make it fun, or I'm engaged in it, and keeping the lessons pretty short, which I'm still working on, because sometimes I'm like, I just want to let's just finish it. We're like so close to just finishing it. I don't want to come back to it. But I have to let that go. You have to be able to let go sometimes. So keeping them shorter, I think definitely helps, because they feel like there's an end point. Like I get to move on and do something else, and it keeps it fresher. I mean, I love the lady that was following as far as retaining like the basics of reading. Like that was my biggest thing, was reading. And just being able to start with phonetics versus sight words. Like that to me was huge. Okay. Because they can read independently on their own once they can know all their sounds. And I think, again, we live more in a society where even public schools are now supposedly going back to phonics. They went to sight words and that wasn't working. And now they're going back to phonics again. Yep. Like it makes sense. Like, why would you not start with sounds? Like, that's how you read. So that to me was really big. And I think just keeping it simple. Like that's my biggest thing. Try to keep it simple and just focus on reading and math. Okay. Everything else comes, it comes, and I keep like science and history. It's fun. Like we'll read a book, we'll watch a documentary. Nice. If we go to CC, and it's memory work, but it's through song. So I don't put so much focus on it. I'm like, they're going to get all that stuff. Like this is just like introduce the information, but I don't really have these expectations where, you need to know who Johnny Appleseed is. And remember, and I'm going to test you in 4 years to make sure you retain it. Like, no, it's just not realistic. Just having an awareness. One thing that's really big for me is character development. So like for us, the Bible, like we have, scripture time we try to have a circle time whenever we can. It doesn't always work, but that to me is the most fun. Like when we just all sit at a table or on the sofa and we're reading a poem or reading a scripture, or the talking about something about history, like the hurricane that just happened. We can bring that into real life. Yeah. Like, hey, this is real current events. Like, how does that affect us? We'll learn about the water cycle now. And like just keeping it simple and just like presenting information to them versus you're trying to, force it down. No, yeah. And expecting like them to like, what are they mastering at 7 years old? Like that's just not realistic. And repeating, just taking it slow, repeating it, and really making sure that the foundation is like solid. So for math, it's like for my daughter, like sometimes I think she's doing great. Like she's doing her math facts, and then I'll ask a question. I'm like, wait a second. Like I thought we had it. We were counting by 10. Like, but you throw one little monkey wrench. It's like, okay, then you see where like there's some cracks in that foundation. Okay, so as much as it pains me, we're gonna have to go back. We can't, because in our nature is like, let's just keep pushing forward, But like, there's no rush. They're going to get there. and I'd rather get there like intact, like, you know, with our relationship intact and just with a solid foundation. And if it takes a little longer, so be it. But again, like, I think it's just trying to get away from that rush that society puts on you. Like, you hear all these kids and the testing, and, you know, even our neighbors like, oh, I'm in the gifted. I mean, what does that mean? Like, okay, that's great, but it makes you feel, to make you feel bad. Like, why is everybody such in a rush to get their kids to have like a college degree by like the time they're 8? Like, it's not necessary.
No, and you'll see too, kids as they get older, the kids that were in the gifted program will fall out. Kids that they thought were stupid will all of a sudden be in high school, be in the gifted program. And at the end of the day, some of the kids at the school system will say were the dumbest kids. When they go out and start life, they become the most successful people, you know?
Exactly.
So there is no rush, like you're saying. It's just a matter of take the journey, enjoy the experience, and do what's necessary. And then you touched on something which I think a lot of families kind of don't get the benefit of. You're able to sit down with your kids and have that your faith is important to you. You're able to sit down with them and install those values early. In the school system, they kind of, unless you're in like a certain, you know, religious school of some type, besides that, those values they're not really caring about installing into your kid. Homeschooling gives you that opportunity to say, hey, look, we are a family of faith. This is important to us. Let's learn from this. Let's read the scripture, figure out what is teaching us. How can we use this in our life to make decisions? And I think that's a really beautiful thing. Did you receive any backlash when you said that you were going to homeschool? Because there used to be a huge stigma. Now I can see the stigma's kind of going away a little bit.
Yeah, now it is, because everybody's homeschooling. Everybody's a variation of it. No, I didn't get very much backlash. I think there were people who were like, oh, like, kind of like, but why, you know, like, and I think it's because they were so young. It really wasn't like, oh, it's cute. Like, that's great. There are some times where, like, you know, we have family that are educators in public school, or were educators, retired, and it's they'll never say it. They're definitely supportive. Nobody's not supportive, but you can tell when, like, that little bit of like questioning, kind of like, oh, so are they learning this, or, you know, it's like you almost get on the defensive because you're like trying to prove, like, no. Like, whenever they come, it's like, oh, look what they did today. Like, they are working, they're learning. But no, for the most part, you know, it was, I think a lot of our family, which is unknown. Like, again, a lot of our family is from New York, lives in New York. And it was, again, not negative. It was just like unsure of what does that look like? How does that work? And now, you know, it's funny because, like, even the ones that are educators, they're like, I'm so glad that they're not in school right now. Like, with everything happening. She's like, you know, their grandma, she's a retired guidance counselor. She's like, I'm so happy that my grandkids are not in school right now with the craziness going on.
Of course,
all the, you know, agendas and all, you know, just all the things that kids don't need to be exposed to at such an early age. It's being pushed on them.
Exactly.
So, you know, that's been really, you know, really great. And I think for us, it's like academics is just a part of life. Like, that's not the end all be all of somebody's life. Like, if my kids don't want to go to college, I'm okay with that. There are way better options.
Yes,
you know,
of course, yeah.
You can have a life, you can be financially stable without going to college. So how do I want to cultivate them to have a love of learning, which is hard because I'm more like that classical teacher. It's like, you need to learn this, but I had to step back and think, like, what is the purpose of me teaching them? It's to make them, like, learn, of course, but I want them to love learning, or, you know, maybe be inspired by something and want to take it further. And that's, I think, when we drill the academics so much, they burn out.
Of course,
they burn out of that. So I want to have them have a very realistic view on life, like being a good friend. You know, what does it mean to have work ethic, being an independent worker? Like, those are the things I kind of have to build in. I use academics to kind of do that, but that's just to help you in life. Like, when my kids complain, like, we do too much work. I'm like, you have no idea. What? Like, 30 minutes of, like, a Saturday, that's not very much. You have no idea what life could be like on the other side. But, you know, I want them to have work ethic and really value what they're doing, and to be able to say, I know I put 100%. Whatever the outcome is, it doesn't matter. No. As long as you can say, I actually put 100% into it. I don't really care if it fails. But if you're looking for an easy way out, then on everything you're doing, and that's the wrong attitude. Exactly. Like, I don't want that. I know when you're slacking, and I know when you're really giving effort. Just give your effort, and that's fine. That's all you have to do.
And you said something there too with that love of learning. That's something, because I was homeschooled pretty much my whole life. I went to first grade and I was homeschooled. And when I got to college, I realized, I'm sitting in this lecture this guy's just reading out of the book, teaching me. I could read the book myself. And if I have a question, just Google it right here and get the answer like this, compared to having to sit through an hour-long class. So I feel like with homeschooling, it does foster that love of learning, because you're able to pursue what you want, but you also don't have someone saying you have to know this by this time so we can move on to this. It's a matter of, oh, you enjoy this? Yeah. Let's go deeper into it. You know what I mean? And I think from being homeschooled, that was something that was, like I said, I still to this day, I love learning new things. I love figuring out new problems. And I do believe it's because my sense of learning was always pretty much not enjoyment. I mean, I hated doing the actual schoolwork and stuff, but I always saw like, okay, wow, like, okay, I didn't know this and now I know this and it's cool. You know what I mean? So I think that with the homeschooling, it does open that door for it. So with us, we have our 4 pillars, and the health one, I know they do the martial arts. Is there anything else you do in sense of mental health, physical health, or anything else you do to incorporate to make sure they are a healthy individual?
I mean, trying to think. I mean, just being outside. I mean, they're outside a lot. They're running around like parks, swimming if they can. My daughters were doing gymnastics for a while. Actually, all 3 of them were doing gymnastics. I just let them be kids. I mean, I try to, be mindful of what they eat, their diet, try to be well. I mean, I'm not crazy with everything because, I've got 4 kids. You only do so much. But overall, we try to be very mindful with like the food that we're eating, having a balanced meal, pushing water, just, having them have a healthy lifestyle for the most part. Mental health, I mean, church, I'm trying to think.
And they're still young too right now, really.
But I think the cool thing with being homeschooled is that they're around so many age groups. Like they hang out with their grandparents, they hang out with, the kids in their co-ops or in church. Like they're around such a mixed bag of ages that they can interact with anybody, which is really cool. Because I'm like, if they're in school, I'm like, I don't know why we believe it's socializing is just dumping a bunch of 30 kids at the same age in a classroom, and that's like socialization. Whereas no, like I want you to know, like how do you, when you're with an adult, can you be respectful? How do you how do you greet an adult? How do you talk to them? You can encourage an adult, like you can have a full-on conversation with an adult. Their grandmother is she's a counselor, so she likes to she's always coming with them, and like it's almost like she likes to teach them like character development. So like she's actually doing a project with them on like a time capsule right now. So that was her idea. They were straight at 9. She's like, we're gonna do a time capsule, and she's having them write a letter to themselves of like what they're interested in. I'm like, I don't think of these things. I the grandmas, like the grandparents, to do that. But the music and just really just being kids. Like that's my focus. It's like being kids. I'm really careful with what they watch on TV.
Of course,
we don't allow a lot of screen time. I'm not crazy. Again, I let them allow them screens, but I'm really specific with what I allow into their minds.
Which you should be. Should be.
The craziness now. And it's not necessary. Like I want them to enjoy their childhood. And I think there's still like that little bit of innocence in them, and I can always tell when there's homeschoolers and when there's like public school, because you can see like the language, the dialogue, like they're like school kids are so grown before their time most of the time because they're trying to keep up and be competitive. And,
of course, this is cool. Be
what's cool and what's not cool, and it's like some for my kids will get. I mean, like and I love it. Their little sister, like they will just run around the table for like 10 minutes with her, and it's like, and they're all getting a kick out of it. I'm like, this is like, it seems like really young, and he's a 9-year-old, but I'm like, that's so sweet that he can still like bond with his 2-year-old sister and just have fun, or like they love playing with magnet tiles or Duplo like Legos. And I'm like, oh my God, if he was in school, like they'd be making fun of him. Right? He's like, he doesn't do the video. I don't do video games. And
no, we didn't either. And I think that's actually a really good thing too, because their brain right now is developing. Yeah. It doesn't need to be having any kind of negative influence on it. It has to have, I think personally, everything that's beneficial to them, and then allow them to go out and say, okay, this is something else I'm interested in. But the stuff from the video games to the cartoons to TV shows and some movies, that same agenda is being pushed down, and a kid doesn't realize for them, they're just watching this movie, but they don't realize what's actually going on, the toxic that's being projected into their mind. So I think that without the video games, I think that's a killer thing too. Because when I tell people, even when I was in college, if you want to let's play Fortnite, because that was like the big one. Like I don't even know how to operate that controller. Like I like being outside. I like doing real. You want to go hike?
Yeah.
You want to go to the lake? You want to go do this? Like I'm down for that. But sitting in front of this screen with this little miniature character does not.
I know.
Seem...
We just bought a Wii.
Okay, there you go.
It's like how old is that? It's like Mario. That's the only game where like he plays with his dad. But and it's funny because he'll like ask his friends, and they're like, "We don't like Mario. Like who's playing that anymore?" Like, well, you're playing with it because I'm not playing it now.
Again, though, that gives you that power as a parent to make sure, because at the end of the day, it's your child. Yeah. It's your decision of what's values to them, what's their morals, what's important to them, and you take that power back because again, you're here. You're spending all the time with them, and you're given that power to say, okay, this is what's important to our family. This is what we're going to focus on, and I think that's a really good thing. The final thing we'll touch on. I know you said it kind of earlier that your husband works nights and all. Is he the only one that's working? Do you do any kind of work? And
no, he's the main.
That's how it was pretty much in my household for the most part. Before we go, any last words you would like to give the audience? If not, we'll just cut it right now.
I'll say one thing that I really value about being a homeschooler and like being able to connect with my kids and their friends. And I think that's one thing that's really lost when you send your kids away to school. Like when we were doing even VPK, like the car drop off. It's like it looked like a drive-through. Like okay, I drop my kid off. I come back, I pick him up. It's a drive-through window. But
that's a good way of actually describing
it. Really what it felt like. And like it's really cool that how much learning happens outside of the textbook. So like. Having like first of all, I can have input on who my kids are around. Like if I see a kid, it's
of course.
or not even the kid, the family. It's like I don't think we really drive in our values. I can steer away from that, or vice versa. I can also teach my kid like, hey, that kid, if they did something mean, like you can't cry about everything. Like you gotta toughen up, but you gotta know how to defend yourself. But I can have that input actively as the situations happen.
Yes, ma'am.
Versus when they're in school and something happens, it's like one, you have to rely on their ability to remember. When they get home and to tell you, or do they even want to tell you? Are they embarrassed if something happening to them? I'm probably a little bit of a helicopter mom. Like I don't.
There's nothing wrong with that.
We don't do sleepovers. I don't drop my kids off in people's houses. Like if it's a play date, like I'm invited to the play date. Like I will be there. I'll sit in the back. I don't care, but I'm present wherever my kids are. And so I like to see I'm not like, I let them play and be free, but if something happens or that I need to address, like I'm there visually, I can address it and we can make a life lesson out of it. If my kids are, being mean, like I can correct that attitude. I can correct character. We have a conversation on the way home and our car rides are probably the most like educational time of our life. That's when we have all the meaningful conversations. We get things out. We listen to learning, but it's a lot of like meaningful. Like they'll have all these random questions about life, and it's always in the car, like going somewhere. But we really get into deep conversations. So it's like, and those are really the most powerful moments, I think. It's like having them learn life as you go, or like our day did not go the way planned, and that happens all the time. But that's real life. Like they want them to see like life is not going to go the way you expected. What are you going to do? Are you going to cry about it? Or just keep moving and figure out another way around it? We'll get to it. But knowing how to time manage, like knowing how to be a contributor. Like I give them chores. Like you got to get up and have a routine and get up and I can't hold your hand all the time because I'm not going to be around forever. So. How do I get them to be independent but walking through that process with them is just amazing to be able to do that.
No, I think that's awesome. And my mom always said she was a helicopter parent. And even like as I got older, sometimes I'm like, man, this woman's crazy. But then I go back and I think to all the times I thought she was crazy. And if I was to put myself with my kid in that situation, I would have made the same exact choice that she did. So it's the helicopter parent has like a bad rep behind it, but I think that really just means it's a parent that actually cares about their kid. And I think a big problem of our society is we have a lot of pushing off that responsibility to other people compared to being, no, like this is my kid. I'm gonna use this time to make sure that they're the person I want them to be. They have the right values. And more of the story is I don't think being a helicopter mom is a bad thing. I think that means you're a mom who actually cares about their kid and that you actually love them. You are absolutely amazing with this. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. You killed it. And also I want to make sure you guys get the video of the background here. Your setup is by far the coolest we've ever come across. By far, you killed it.
It looks beautiful. Hopefully it invites them in. Yeah. My kids know that, so they take it for granted.
No, thank you so much again, though.
Thanks so much for coming, and it was fun.